Here's your daily updates. Newsman Dennis Daly offers his take on the events of the day in another daily video blog.
Hi, and thanks again, everybody. Well, during the hot season here in Palm Springs, I've decided to take a few days off. So today, let's look back at one of the daily news updates from the past year that got the biggest amount of email.
Hi, and thanks again, everybody. You know, I've done reports in an awful lot of places, but never in the wind like this. One of the hallmarks of San Francisco is the changeable weather. Remember Mark Twain's famous statement that the coldest winter he ever spent was one summer in San Francisco. Just about every hour there is a cruise around the bay, and one of the high points of it is going under the Golden Gate Bridge. Now, about 12 years ago, I went to the top of the Golden Gate Bridge, and this is going to be fun, going underneath it, if we don't freeze to death.
And the mystique of the Golden Gate Bridge was born before the bridge was ever here. This entrance to a huge natural harbor was overlooked for years when Spanish ships went up and down the coast. There was fog, and most of the ships actually went far off the coastline. Then they noticed the small opening in 1769. After the San Francisco Bay was discovered, and word got out that it was one of the world's largest protected harbors, the landscape would never be the same. Along a growing number of docks, the ships of the world started arriving in San Francisco. It wasn't long before the city took on a kind of Barbary Coast bohemian persona, one that in many ways remains today. San Francisco quickly grew, becoming the West Coast city years before Los Angeles would come into its own. But much of the grandeur built with gold rush and railroad money would crumble on the morning of April 18, 1906. The quake and subsequent fire sparked a massive rebuilding, some done at near warp speed. By the 1930s, it became evident that the hundreds of ferries that connected San Francisco with the Oakland area on the east and Marin County to the north were no longer sufficient for a growing number of automobiles that nearly clogged the docks. In 1933, work had begun on the Oakland Bay crossing, an incredible combination of twin suspension bridges end-to-end, the world's largest vehicular tunnel, one of the world's largest cantilever bridges, and more than a mile of truss bridge. It was finished late in 1936. That is a beautiful complex of bridges, but it's an ugly stepsister compared to the crossing at the Golden Gate. Painted international orange to better blend in with the surroundings, the Golden Gate Bridge, for decades the longest in the world, was opened 6 months after the Bay Bridge. Today it remains one of the iconic symbols of one of the world's most romantic cities.
And one thing you really learn going out here on the bay and looking up at the Golden Gate Bridge in this kind of weather is the determination and stamina of the men, the high riggers who went up on top that bridge to make it and down there the Bay Bridge possible back in the 1930s in this kind of weather. From underneath the Golden Gate Bridge, I'm Dennis Daly with your daily news update.